Jasmine Bennett stepped out of her sleek black car, her heels clicking against the pavement as she approached Golden Grace, the most luxurious jewelry store in downtown Chicago. She had spent years building her wealth, and today was a moment of celebration, a chance to reward herself for her hard work. The shimmering glass storefront reflected her poised image, and as she stepped inside, the scent of polished wood and expensive perfume filled the air. She glided past velvet displays, her eyes catching the sparkle of a diamond necklace behind a pristine glass case. It was exquisite, just the kind of statement piece she wanted. However, as she admired its beauty, she could feel an unsettling gaze on her. Mr. Whitman, the store owner, stood behind the counter, watching her with narrowed eyes. There was something in his expression, something cold and suspicious. He cleared his throat before speaking. "May I help you?" His tone was polite, but it carried an edge of skepticism. Jasmine, unfazed, smiled. "Yes, I'd like to see that necklace, please." But as Mr. Whitman hesitated, she sensed what was coming before it even began. Mr. Whitman retrieved the necklace, but his fingers lingered over it as if he were debating whether to hand it to her. Jasmine extended her hand with confidence, taking the jewelry delicately. The diamonds glistened beneath the store's golden lighting. "It's beautiful," she murmured. "How much?" Mr. Whitman straightened his posture. $225,000, he stated, his tone sharp, as though daring her to flinch. But Jasmine did not hesitate. She reached into her designer bag and pulled out a sleek platinum credit card, handing it over without a second thought. The moment the card touched the cashier's fingers, the store's atmosphere shifted. Tension thickened. Employees exchanged glances, whispering amongst themselves. Mr. Whitman's lips pressed into a thin line before he gave a subtle nod to his assistant. Without a word, the assistant picked up the phone and began dialing. Jasmine's patience began to wear thin. She had seen this before. The coded looks, the silent calls, the underlying assumption that she didn't belong in a place like this. She folded her arms, watching Mr. Whitman carefully. "Is there a problem?" she asked, her voice steady. He didn't answer, but she already knew. Moments later, the front door swung open with a sharp jingle, and two uniformed officers stepped inside. Their hands rested on their holsters as their eyes scanned the room before settling on Jasmine. Her stomach clenched. It was happening again. "Is there a problem here?" one officer asked. Mr. Whitman pointed directly at her. "I believe she's using a stolen credit card." His voice was filled with certainty, as if he had already determined her guilt. Jasmine felt a wave of anger rise within her, but she forced herself to stay composed. One of the officers, Officer Reed, stepped forward. "Ma'am, we need to verify this card. Do you have any ID?" Jasmine let out a slow breath before pulling out her wallet. She refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing her lose her composure. She handed them both her ID and the credit card, watching as the officer inspected them closely. "I don't understand why I'm being questioned like this," she said firmly. "I came here to make a purchase, not commit a crime." But deep down, she knew exactly why. And so did everyone else in the room. Officer Reed turned to Mr. Whitman. "Sir, do you have any proof that she stole this card?" Mr. Whitman scoffed. "Just look at her. Women like her don't walk in here and buy jewelry like this." A sharp silence followed. The weight of his words pressed heavily into the space between them. Jasmine's jaw clenched. She had heard this rhetoric before, not in words, but in actions, in looks, in doubt. The officer exchanged glances with his partner before pulling out his radio. Within moments, the verification came through. "The card is valid. The name matches. There's no issue here." A hush fell over the store. Mr. Whitman's face drained of color. That can't be right," he muttered. But the truth was undeniable. Jasmine inhaled deeply before locking eyes with him. "You assumed I was a criminal because of my skin color. That's called racial profiling, and it's illegal." She watched as Mr. Whitman took a step back, suddenly aware of the attention the store had gathered. And yet, this was only the beginning. A thick silence hung in the air. Other customers, who had been pretending not to watch, now openly stared. A woman in the back whispered, "I can't believe this is happening." The murmurs grew louder, and Jasmine knew she had an audience. Mr. Whitman looked around, clearly feeling the weight of judgment. His mouth opened and closed as he scrambled for an excuse, but none came. "I was only protecting my store," he muttered weakly. Jasmine scoffed. "Protected from what? A paying customer?" She shook her head, her patience wearing thin. "You had no reason to suspect me of anything, except the fact that I don't fit into whatever small-minded expectations you have of wealth." Officer Reed sighed. "Ma'am, you have every right to press charges for discrimination." His words made Mr. Whitman's face turn an even paler shade. The reality of the situation was sinking in. His assumption had not only been wrong, but had placed his entire career in jeopardy. Jasmine glanced around the store. She could drag this out, file a lawsuit, take this to the media, but that wasn't why she was here. She had come to buy a necklace, not to teach a grown man about racism. "I should," she said, voice calm but firm. "But right now, I just want my necklace and to leave the store." Mr. Whitman opened his mouth, perhaps to beg, perhaps to justify, but the decision was no longer his. His assistant had already swiped the platinum card, and the transaction was complete. Jasmine took the receipt, slipping it into her bag along with her new necklace. Just as she turned to leave, the door chimed again. A deep voice echoed through the store. "Miss Bennett." She stopped mid-step and turned. A tall man in a perfectly tailored suit strode inside, his presence commanding immediate attention. James Walker, the owner of the entire Golden Grace jewelry chain. Mr. Whitman visibly stiffened. "Mr. Walker," he stammered, "I didn't expect you." Walker's sharp eyes moved from the officers to Jasmine and then to his store manager. "I heard everything," he said, his voice dangerously calm, "and my security cameras caught all." Jasmine folded her arms, watching as Mr. Whitman's expression crumbled. Now, the real reckoning would begin. James Walker turned to the officers. "Thank you, gentlemen. I'll take it from here." The officers nodded and stepped back, but their presence lingered, a reminder of the injustice that had nearly played out unchecked. Mr. Walker then locked his gaze onto Mr. Whitman, his expression unreadable. "Tell me," Walker said slowly, "what exactly did you think you were protecting the store from?" Mr. Whitman fidgeted. I was just being cautious." Walker scoffed. "Cautious?" He took a step closer. "Or racist?" Mr. Whitman paled. "Sir, please, I've worked here for 10 years. "And you just lost your job?" Walker cut him off. "Effective immediately." Gasps rippled through the store. Mr. Whitman staggered back, as if the words had physically struck him. His gaze darted around, but there was no sympathy in the room. He had made his choice, and now he was facing the consequences. Walker turned to the remaining employees. "This is not the kind of business I run," he said. "From this moment on, there will be mandatory racial sensitivity training for all staff. If anyone engages in profiling again, they'll be out the door just like Mr. Whitman." The employees exchanged nervous glances, but no one objected. They had seen the writing on the wall. Walker then looked at Jasmine. "Miss Bennett, I deeply apologize for what you've been put through. This should never have happened." Jasmine tilted her head, considering his words. It wasn't the first time she had experienced discrimination, but it was one of the first times she had seen such immediate consequences. Walker took a step toward one of the display cases and gestured to the shimmering jewelry within. "As a token of goodwill, please choose any piece from our collection, free of charge." The offer was genuine, and for a brief moment, Jasmine considered it. But then, she glanced at Mr. Whitman, who still stood frozen, his career shattered by his own prejudice. Jasmine smirked. "I appreciate the offer, Mr. Walker, but I'll stick with what I already purchased." She held up the bag containing the necklace. That way, Mr. Whitman will always remember that he lost a loyal customer over his own ignorance. Walker's lips curved into a knowing smile. "Fair enough." Jasmine turned toward the door, her heels clicking against the marble floor. She had come in for a necklace and was leaving with something even more valuable, justice. As she stepped outside, she inhaled the crisp Chicago air, feeling a sense of triumph. She had faced discrimination head-on, and refused to shrink under the weight of it. Inside, the store remained silent. Mr. Whitman stood like a man who had lost everything, while the other employees whispered among themselves. Jasmine didn't look back. She had made her statement. As she drove home, the events of the day replayed in her mind. The anger, the humiliation, the unfairness. It was exhausting. But she also felt something else. Pride. She had handled the situation with grace. She hadn't let Mr. Whitman's bias define her. Instead, she had let him expose his own ignorance. Still, the experience was a reminder. No matter how successful she became, there would always be people who questioned her place in the world. But that was their problem, not hers. That evening, Jasmine placed a diamond necklace around her neck, admiring its brilliance in the mirror. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry anymore. It was a symbol, a reminder of what she had overcome. She picked up her phone, snapping a photo. With a knowing smirk, she posted on her social media with a single caption, "Luxury looks good on me, whether they like it or not." Within minutes, the comments poured in, messages of support, outrage over the discrimination she had faced, and applause for how she had handled it. Jasmine smiled, setting her phone down. Mr. Whitman had tried to humiliate her, but in the end, he had only humiliated himself. She turned off the lights and climbed into bed, the weight of the necklace resting against her collarbone, a symbol of her success, a statement of her power. And with that, she slept soundly, knowing she had won.